The Nashville Predators add a center and part ways with a defenseman. We'll discuss the most recent roster moves and talk about the pressure on Nashville's veterans this season on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off the best day of the week, shouting out the best insiders, our Locked On Predators insiders community, and of course, our everydayers who tune in Monday through Friday to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio, and friend, I have a hockey Thelma to my hockey Louise.
You do. I am Emma Lingan, and I'm an NHL reporter and host for the Hockey News.
Well, we have spent a lot of time lately, Emma, talking about the young players who are working really hard to make a case for their NHL time. It isn't all about the youth, though, this season. Today, we are going to talk about the latest updates from training camp that do include some roster moves with young players. One surprise shift to Milwaukee when it comes to young players, but we also want to focus on the veterans. We're going to talk about how the veterans need to perform and how they could be affected by this perhaps incoming youth movement this season as well. Before we dive into all of that, I do want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Happy best day of the week, Emma. Happy Thursday, Friday, Junior. It's just right here in front of us, glorious as could be, sort of. As of the time of this recording, on this Thursday, we still have no word of Luke Evangelista signing a contract with the Nashville Predators. Let's just get that out of the way.
But we did get the whole social media marketing campaign from the Nashville Lifestyles magazine on Wednesday.
Yes.
They had all their stories on Instagram, everything on Twitter, all the photos, all the videos. And it was like, oh, my friends, really, I'm sure the Predators PR staff saw that and were like, that's probably a phone call we should have made before they went ahead and rolled that out. But
yeah,
hashtag
awkward.
Yeah, Luke Evangelista, one of Nashville's most beautiful. Still the case, still true. He is just not currently signed to a contract extension. So
yeah, still waiting a little bit. Still waiting. So there's that important update that we seem to be bringing you every single day. A couple of other real quick training camp updates before we get to some of the big news of the day. One thing that we do have to announce, and I do this with the heaviest of hearts, Matthew Wood is officially week to week with a lower body injury. That is 2 thumbs down, and we just ain't in the mood for it. But that is what is true. But let's talk about the addition to the Nashville Predators that news broke on Wednesday afternoon. Tyson Jost, 27-year-old center, most recently played in Carolina. Nashville Predators picked him up off of waivers and are adding him to the roster. This is an interesting move, Emma. I think it raises some questions that maybe are not necessarily interconnected. Like, I don't know that picking up Tyson Jost means they are absolutely burning the Evangelista bridge or anything like that. But I do think this is an interesting move. When you heard the news that they had picked up Jost, what kind of is your initial reaction of this move?
I mean, my initial reaction, as I told you before we started recording, was, well, there goes Barry with the waiver wire again. Man, he loves that thing. Like, I think it's some kind of like chemical reaction that happens inside Barry Trotz's brain. He sees a former first round pick on the waiver wire and he's like, he's mine. I need to grab him. He's mine now. So like Liam Foudy, Andreas Englund, he was a second round pick, but kind of
you get the gist.
Yes. Yeah, like all of these guys, Sammy,
Jerome.
what was
No. Yes.
from the LA Kings, and he's
Mhm.
back there now.
Yeah.
Sammy,
Yes, it
oh,
is.
that's so bad. But you know who I'm
I
talking
know
about. This wasn't even that
exactly who
long
you're
ago.
talking about. That's gonna drive me nuts.
See,
We'll drop it in the
I'm
comments.
I'm in baseball brain right now, and I keep wanting to say Sammy Ciani, who is a prospect for the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's not who we're talking about. It's Sammy Fagimo. Sammy Fagimo. Wow, that was gonna bother me. Love that for me. Okay, so Sammy Fagimo, Andreas Englund, Jared Anderson Dolan, Liam Foodie. I'm sure I'm probably forgetting some. Jordan Osterley, and now we had Jacob Vrana last year. Now you got Tyson Jost because sure. I really don't. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
It
know.
reminds me of your story about your cellular reaction to wanting to tell Nicole Kidman that you got your shoes on sale.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. And you know
you
what?
start something and then you almost are like, can't stop it.
That yeah, and you know what? She is unfortunately going to be going through a divorce
Sad.
here now. And
I
so
hate
now
that.
maybe I feel like I should have told her where to get my shoes on sale. Like maybe that would help in
I
some
think
way.
she's going to be okay. I
She's
just,
probably got a pretty good prenup. She's
I
probably
don't
fine.
know her business, but I'm going to sleep fine at night for her. Thinking about it.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But yeah,
I
it
think
was like that. It was just like a knee jerk thing. It was like, oh, okay. And I feel like that's how Barry Trotz is with waivers. He's
yeah.
like, I there's someone available, he's mine.
Yes.
Mine now. It's like, what are you gonna do with him? I
Well,
don't
and I think that's a valid question. Now, look, here is what's real. The Nashville Predators, and we have talked about this through the offseason, not a deep center class here. We not a lot of depth down the middle. And so I get that. Hey, you know what? We're going to pick up this center. I will say this, I like his demographic for the Nashville Predators, 27 years old. Like that's kind of the meat of the sandwich in which we are missing for this roster as we look now and not yet. So I do like that. I don't know, and we've had saw some reaction online and had some people reach out about like who's out now that he picked up Tyson Jost. And I'm like, I don't think that this means that somebody is out. I think this means, do you know what we don't have? We don't have a lot of centers. And if one goes down, we don't want plan B to be, excuse me, Steven Stamkos, could you just scoot on over from the wing? And so that is more of what I view this move as than Barry Trotz is getting ready to supplant one of them
yeah.
centers,
And look, as a depth move, I don't have a problem with it.
Mhm.
Again, sure, fine. If you're gonna carry him as your extra forward, fine. But the problem is like if you want to stash him as depth in Milwaukee, well, guess what? You got to put him on waivers again and hope
Mhm.
nobody claims him. So it's like if you're claiming him now, you're probably planning for him to be on your
Yeah.
NHL roster. Now, are you planning for him to start in your roster? No, he's probably sitting in the press box for
Mhm.
opening night, and that's fine. But I agree with you. I don't think that it's one where it's like, "Oh, Eric Holla's probably sweating now. They picked up another No.
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 No. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's going to be interesting to see what we get an opportunity to see in training camp from Tyson Jost and to see how the Nashville Predators maybe opt to, like you said, where's he going to fit in the perimeter with this team as well. So something to keep our eye on looking ahead, getting much closer to opening night, 1 week away from hockey that counts. I don't know how that makes you all feel, but we're just telling you 1 week away from hockey that counts. Yeah.
Gird your loins, everybody. We're 1 week away.
Gird your loins. How is that not in the swag store? Another interesting note for waivers, Andreas Englund was placed on waivers by the Nashville Predators. This is what I will say about that. I think I have 2 little teeny tiny takeaways. Number 1, I think that this is sort of a hint that Andrew Brunette and Barry Trotz are really liking what they're seeing from the young defensemen. And we've talked about this. There's a lot to sift through on the blue line. I think that tells you that, hey, you know what? We feel like we've got some things here in these young defensemen that is going to be usable at the start of the season. I also think that it is of note. Andreas Englund was the full-size candy bar on Halloween, and Barry Trotz has talked about getting bigger on the blue line. Spencer Stastny, not bigger. Adam Wilsby, not bigger. Tanner Mollendijk, not bigger. But I do think that they are playing well enough in training camp that Barry Trotz feels comfortable saying, you know what, these are inches above 6 feet that we're okay stepping away from. So I just think that that is of note and interesting for Andreas Englund.
Yeah. I'm not mad about it. I think that's a good thing if that is the case, that you're seeing more from your younger defensemen. I mean, that's what you want if you're the Predators. But then I kind of, and again, this is not something I'm losing sleep over if I'm a Predators fan, but you do kind of wonder, well, why the hell did you sign him to that 1-year extension at the end of last year? Because, like, again, we saw Jordan Osterley go on waivers the day before. That one, he was in the second year of his contract that he had signed with Boston, and then Nashville picked him up off waivers. Right. So that's like out of your control. You put him on waivers, whatever. But this one, it's like, you signed him. You signed Englund to a contract just to place him on waivers. And so that makes me think it's a little bit, it's a little bit on brand for Barry Trotz to maybe think like a coach and react to things in immediate time. And last year it was like, oh crap, we don't have any big defensemen. This one, sign him just to have him. And it's like, I don't know that we needed to do that, because if you look in the pipeline, you've got a lot. You've already got a lot of sort of a log jam there. So it's like, what are we doing? And I will just say it would be very on brand of Barry Trotz to kind of think like a coach and, try to plug the hole immediately and then say, well, we'll deal with it later. And it's like, again, this is not worth losing sleep over. He's making the league minimum. Like, it's not a big deal.
Not a big deal. Yeah.
It
is of note. It is of note. Yes. Coming up, the Predators made another big roster move that may be a little bit more surprising. We're going to tell you the one young player who is likely to be starting his season in Milwaukee. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, pick a bet. Put down $5, and if it hits, you're going to unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You are going to love how FanDuel gives you so many different ways to play. You can build parlays, try player props, and even follow the live lines during games. It's going to make watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you are a casual football fan or you love diving into those advanced stats, FanDuel is going to make the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, Emma, another little piece of roster information that we do need to talk about. Yesterday afternoon, we found out that Reid Schaefer has been reassigned to Milwaukee. We had just discussed Reid Schaefer on Wednesday's episode. So very interesting move by the Nashville Predators. Here's what I will say. I don't think that this means much at all about where Nashville feels like his potential is. I don't think this says anything at all about Reid Schaefer's future with this organization. Here is how I feel about it. This is just my 2 cents. This is not what we've heard from Trotz or Bruno. This is just how I feel about this. Reid Schaefer coming back, like we had mentioned on yesterday's show, from a significant injury. I think he played less than 20 games last season. He was on a tear, y'all. but missed the remainder of the season. And coming back into camp, he has looked very good. He looked good in rookie camp, in the prospect showcase. He has looked good in training camp. He has looked good in the preseason games. But I am okay with this move, Emma, for one main reason. And that is that most of the time, I think when you have dealt with a major injury as a professional athlete, no matter how well you trust the rehab, no matter how thoroughly you have done, no matter how great you feel, there is a mental component to getting back out on the ice and playing games. And for me, I want Reid Schaefer to get back out on the ice and feel 100% confident and to build back up the mental muscles in the AHL. I am fine with him doing that in Milwaukee. And I don't think this means that we aren't going to see Reid Schaefer this season at all. So I think we need to be careful overblowing this move when it comes to what this means for the Predators this season.
Yeah, he was one. I'm very happy with this move. I'm a
Mhm.
little surprised it didn't come when the rest of the
That
Milwaukee
was
group
interesting.
went. So I was kind of like, oh, maybe they really see something in him. And not saying they don't see something in him, but this makes me feel better for all of the reasons you just mentioned. I think that Reid Schaefer, I know that this is a guy that Barry Trotz really likes. I know the organization is very high on him. That's fine. But if you really want to do this right, you want to get this right, like I think that letting him start the year in Milwaukee is the way to do it. Because he's going to be getting more consistent playing time. He's going to be getting top 6 minutes. He's going to be building his confidence, all the things. Like you said, you want him to be in a great spot mentally
Yes.
when he comes to the NHL. And this, I had so many concerns. Again, not about like his talent level or anything like that. I just, with how little he played last year, and last year was his first year in the AHL. So I'm like, with how little he played, I was nervous about that.
Yeah.
Now that he's at least going to be starting the year in Milwaukee makes me feel better.
Yeah, I think this is long-term the best decision for Reid Schaefer, although I'm sure it feels disappointing because this is a player that I think we all feel like, and I think the team felt like this is a player who we are taking a really long look at because of how this roster and this training camp is unfolding before us. So I agree with you. I think that this long term is a good thing for Reid Schaefer, and he's going to be a player who I think is going to tear it up in the AHL and really be ready. I don't think it's an if he makes his debut in the NHL. I think it is a when he makes his debut in the NHL. We mentioned earlier the absolute poop news about Matthew Wood, week to week lower body injury. Emma, I just have to circle back to this because I have to tell you, this is so disappointing. This is so disappointing. And I was really bummed when Nick Hague went out with injury and we know he's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. This feels even worse. This feels even worse for me with Matthew Wood. I got to tell you, not a fan. Not a fan of this.
Yeah, it is upsetting because, we talk about this group of bubble guys like Wood, Schaefer, Kimmel, Wiesblatt, like that's those sort of bubble forwards that could make the roster, especially with the Evangelista situation still being unresolved. It's like you really, it could be 2 spots that are available instead of 1. So like it was, and Matthew Wood was one of the, he was the star of training camp early.
Yes.
He came in like a man on a mission. He surprised me at how, I mean, he wants this, you can tell. And so, and in my opinion, of all of those names I just mentioned, he was the only one that 100%, yes, he's on the team for me. Like opening night, he's not saying the other guys have been bad, but it's like he was the one that I was the most sure about.
Yes.
Now he's injured. But the good news is that this, in theory, simplifies the decision a little bit in terms of who gets the opening night roster spot for another guy that I have always been an advocate for since the end of last season. I have been advocating for this guy to be on the opening night roster, and that's Ozzy Wiesblatt. So he was one who I thought was maybe, and then with Wood really coming in and showing out, I'm like, I don't know what that means for Ozzy. With Wood being injured, I think that this creates an opportunity. Now, he's still going to have to earn it in the remainder of the preseason. Not at all saying like, well, that's his spot now, because I just mentioned there are other guys. Joachim Kimmel is still there. Brady Martin is still there. I mean, you have other options. You could always, I don't know, bring Reid Schaefer back. I mean, there are options there, but I think that to me, that's a little bit like the silver lining of that is I would imagine that means Wiesblatt makes the opening night roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It will be interesting to see how quickly Matthew Wood gets back to the ice. I also think it will be interesting to see, does he spend some time in Milwaukee doing a conditioning stint when he is 100% healthy and then comes up to the NHL? I don't think it would hurt him. I just really want to see Matthew Wood play for the Nashville Predators this season.
Yeah, I think I do too. But again, I think that a conditioning stint in the AHL would not be a bad thing for him. He's never played in the AHL. You got to remember that. So I think that it'll be good for him. Same as what we were saying with Schaefer. You want him to feel really good about where his game is at, coming off of an injury, however serious it might be. The way to get him feeling good again, get him in the AHL, put him in the top 6, let him build his confidence, and then we can see the best version of him.
Yeah. Coming up, we are going to pivot away from the young guys and we're going to talk about the veterans, because here's what's real. We have veterans we know are going to make this roster and they have a lot of pressure on them this season. We're going to talk about their role and what may be a challenge for them as they try to bounce back from last year. All right, Emma, Barry Trotz has talked about this since his tenure taking over. He has talked about this youth movement. Now, it hasn't necessarily materialized and kind of took a pivot in 2024 when he signed Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea. And of course, I don't think we need to revisit what happened last year. You all saw it. You girded your loins to the best of your ability, and we limped to the finish. I think it's really interesting, though, because there is pressure on these veterans to bounce back this season individually, but there is also now a little bit of a unique role for them as well, because we are suddenly seeing the potential for youth playing with these veterans. At training camp yesterday, some of the lines that we saw, and I am not guaranteeing you or saying this is going to be the opening night roster, but of note, Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly playing with Brady Martin. Steven Stamkos centered by Fedor Svechkov with Joachim Kimmel on the other wing. So these veterans very well may be trying to get back into the mix individually and get back to their performances, but they also have the added role of you are going to help these young players as you go. And I think this is going to be a really interesting storyline that unfolds as we watch these veterans. You gotta bounce back. But also while you're doing that, here's another job for you.
Yeah, I think I don't know. We've been talking about this so much about the young guys, who's going to make the roster. And you know what? As for the Predators, that's what you should be talking about. Like, that's exciting. That's good. But I think that I mean, again, I've said it so many times in many different ways, but I think that if you're looking ahead to the long-term future of this team, this is a great sign that we're talking about the young kids. If you're looking to this season, I still don't know what we've learned about this team. And I don't think we've really learned much of anything until that puck drops on October 9th, because training camp, as we've said ad nauseum, is not for the veterans, but the veterans are the guys who really need to step up this year in order for this team to not repeat what happened last year. So, I mean, it's
It's
I
a
don't know.
unique spot for them. I think it's a very unique spot for these veterans to be in. I got a chance on Wednesday to talk to Steven Stamkos after practice. And of course, like I said, he was playing on a line with Fedor Svechkov and with Joachim Kimmel. And so I asked Steven Stamkos, what is the hardest thing to learn coming into this league? And as a veteran, what do you want these young players around you to learn from you? This is what Steven Stamkos had to say.
Well, it's just, you're so used to, being probably the best player on your team and being the guy in all situations and having the puck all the time. To go into the best league in the world where the guys are bigger, stronger, faster, the processing speed is quicker, and you just don't have the puck as much. And the most important thing is your play away from the puck. And that's something that I was taught at a young age, by some older veteran guys that really helped me. And that's what you try to do. I mean, for the most part, when you're a good player, you know what to do when you have the puck. Those are the things that you've done well your whole life. But when you're in situations where now you don't have the puck for as much, or you're playing a little different role, maybe those are the things you have to focus on, and that's something I try to help the guys out with.
I thought that was such an interesting perspective from Stamkos as a veteran, to be able to look back and say, you know what it is? It's all of a sudden you is a little fish in a really big pond. And everybody knows how to play hockey. And so it's about what you do when you don't have the puck. And I think that's something that we have to watch, especially in a situation where perhaps Steven Stamkos is with a Fedor Svechkov or Joachim Kimmel, or I don't know, a Luke Evangelista, just throwing it out there and seeing what sticks. So these veterans need to personally have these bounce back seasons, but they're also going to be in situations of mentorship in a way. And I think this is going to be such an interesting dynamic. Is that going to be something that motivates them and makes them better? Is that going to be something that maybe is a distraction for them as they try to bounce back? So I think this is going to be probably the most interesting storyline for me at the beginning of the season. How do these veterans do both?
Yeah. And I mean, it is going to be what you have to watch. I mean, like, I don't think once that puck drops on October 9th, I'm less concerned with how Ozzy Wiesblatt looks. I'm less concerned with how Joachim Kimmel looks. I am looking at Steven Stamkos. I'm looking at Jonathan Marchessault, at Reid Schaefer, at, all of the, and not just the new guys. I mean, I'm looking at Yossi, I'm looking at Forsberg, because they are going to be, they're the straw that stirs the drink in this current iteration of the Nashville Predators. So you need them to, as we've said so many times, get off to a good start. Just get off to a good start. So yeah. I think that, again, it has been frustrating because I think, and people have asked me, like, are you excited for hockey season to start? Are you a little nervous because last year went so poorly? And it's like, look, I'm excited for it to start because that's when we're actually going to learn something about this team in theory. Yes. Because right now I'm like, sure.
Yep.
I don't know.
I got nothing. Yeah. And so much about who this team is really is about the veterans. Is it exciting if Brady Martin makes his debut? Yes. Will it be great to see Joachim Kimmel? And, would it be amazing to have Luke Evangelista back? Sure. But it is really going to come down to these veterans. The pressure is on them. We reached out to our Locked On Predators insiders community to talk about veterans and the pressure that they are facing this season, and ask them, who do you think faces the most pressure and what do you need to see from them to feel better? And Steven Stamkos was a name that was mentioned very, very often. One insider said, I think success for Stammer is less than 84 years between one-timers. When he sank one last year, you could hardly remember the last one. It should be a weekly occurrence. That's why we got him. So I think consistency is huge. Jonathan Marchessault, another player who struggled mightily with consistency last season. You've got to have that if you're a veteran. Another insider said, whether it is father time or the catch-up hunt or missing Point and Kucherov, he's not the same guy he was in Tampa and should definitely not be at center. The only one of those things that has changed coming into this year is the catch-up which I think was the least of the issues. So he is going to need some chemistry. Will he find it with young players? Will he be the one that leads a line to chemistry as the veteran if he is, in fact, with a couple of young players? Interesting idea. Another veteran that people talked about, Jonathan Marchessault. Also, UC Saros. UC Saros, I think, is somebody that has some pressure on him. One insider said, I think the most pressure is probably on Juice. With Stamkos, Marchi, Yossi, you can say that they are just old or getting past their prime, but Saros is at the start of his big new contract. It is also easier to single out the goalie, whether fair or not. If he doesn't get back above maybe a 9-10, people will keep calling for his job. And I do think part of that is the cheese stands alone, which is why I would never be a goaltender. Like UC Saros' stats are credited solely to UC Saros, fair or not fair. And so there is pressure on these veterans, and they got to get it right. They got to get it right out of the gate. And they're going to have to get it right with some more young players around them than maybe they banked on this season.
Yeah. And to that end, not just for themselves, but for UC Saros, because I still am a big, advocate of the last year was not all on UC Saros movement.
Preach.
So not saying that he had a great year, because he didn't. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that so much of last year gets pinned on him, which again, like you said, the cheese stands alone. He is the last line of defense. And so, in theory, yes, the goalie's job is to stop the puck. He didn't stop as many pucks last year. That's not a good thing. But I think that so many other things need to go right for that to, to happen. And I just I am hopeful that the veterans playing in front of him can get it together.
Yes.
And then allow him to, maybe see the puck once in a while, and then maybe we go from there.
Yeah. And that is one thing when we talk about these forwards that need to improve. I know we tend to automatically go to goal scoring, which is factual, if you recall last year. Second fewest goals scored in the league, baby. But it also comes down to these veterans to be defensively responsible. And we're talking the forwards in front of UC Saros as well. And they may have to cover a little more ground there if they are playing with young players. So they're going to have to not only step up their game in general, they may have to step up their game more specifically, especially for a guy like UC Saros. Like this is going to be really interesting. Exciting to have young players on the roster, but you also need your veterans to bounce back and to make those young players better playing with them. And that's a big ask. Can they do it? The vibes are good, friends. The vibes are good. But I don't know. Vibes may be like feelings, which are just like farts. So,
yeah. Vibes ain't enough. We learned that because the vibes were good at camp last year too.
They were so good, you all. They were so good last year. We weren't lying to you. The vibes were good. The season, if you recall, was not good. No. We did have one thought I want to read to sort of summarize this topic. And this came from one of our insiders. And I thought, okay, you've nailed it. I'm not even going to try to rephrase this. So let me read this thought from one of our insiders. It makes me think that individual success will be less important than the individuals working together for team success. I think if they can find success as a team, those individuals who need to have a comeback year will find their game again and be successful. By finding a way to play as a unit, supporting each other's play, working together to create more scoring opportunities, and giving each other more defensive support, the team will work better and individuals will start to feel more confident, and that confidence will translate into individual success, which will feed team success. And then we will make the playoffs, win the cup, and the parade on Broadway will be amazing. Oh, wait, sorry. I fell asleep there for a minute and had the most wonderful dream. I loved that. But I do think that's so true. And maybe the secret sauce for these veterans will be playing as a unit with these young players, because that is their new role. Maybe the young players could potentially be the secret sauce for veterans to have a bounce back year. I know that's rose-colored glasses, but a girl can still hope we're a week away.
Yeah. And that right now, at clean slate. So enjoy it while you can, folks.
Yeah.
'Cause
7
and
days
gird
more
your
of hope,
loins.
friends. 7 days more of hope, and then loin gird.
Yes.
That's just what you're going to have to do. So let us know what you think. Which veteran has the pressure for a bounce back season? And how do you think playing with younger players may affect their performance coming up next week? We would love to hear your thoughts on this. I think it's going to be such an interesting story unfolding for this team as the season kicks off again a week from tonight. Crazy thought. Thank goodness. Maybe. Gird your loins.
Sure.
Sure. That's where we're at. Emma, before we wrap up this conversation on the best day of the week, this Thursday, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingan, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
You can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. Friends, that is going to do it for this Thursday episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks again so much for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back tomorrow with an all new episode and all new updates. We'll see you then.